All right, welcome to this year's PAWrestling.com season previews. Joined always by my esteemed colleague to my far left, your far right, Glenn Kaiser, and joined this year, first time, Nate Heckenberger from the Daily Local. We're glad to have you, Nate. Welcome.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah.
So
good to get another Homer's viewpoint.
We're trying to bring in as many people from all over the district as possible. So if you ever want in on the preview or anything else we do, you know how to get in touch with us. What we're going to do right now in the first video here for today's video is just talk about the season that's while we know it's already started, we're going to talk a little bit about the new coaches in District 1, girls wrestling, and rules and the new weights that they adopted in the off season here in Pennsylvania. Just so everyone's clear on things that might be a little bit fuzzy otherwise. So, this year, District 1, guys, 15 new coaches that have joined the ranks here. And, we're going to put that graphic up on the screen so you can see it.
Yeah, it seems like we had a lot last year, but almost, I think, 5 more. I think we had like 10 or 11 last year. So this is a big number. I'll jump right in, and then we can kind of move around between our leagues here. I'll start off with Central Bucks West. I think everyone knows Dylan Schwartz, Council Rock South grad. He's taken over a program long coached by Steve Romsberg, and they have some talent on that team. They have some young talent. We're going to talk about some of the freshmen soon, and they have some good freshmen there, and obviously Kelly returning. So a nice program for Schwartz to take over. I'm sure he's going to bring that Council Rock approach. So that's nice. Jesse Dunn over at Lower Moreland. I think this is big for Lower Moreland. I think that's going to help them. They're a double-A team that traditionally has been decent. And I think that Jesse's going to probably change that schedule around and get them some better talent. So that's for the Lions down there, that's big for them. Looking up at New Hope, Dustin Blevins. He's a New Hope grad, 2010, so he knows the program. Hopefully New Hope can get back on track because I think in years past they used to run their tournament. They used to have a nice program up there. So good changes there for New Hope Soulbury. And at Pennsbury is the biggest move, I think, in the SOL that we have here with Phil Killey coming back, taking over for Dwayne Stinson, who just literally turned that program around at Pennsbury over the last 4 years. And he's off to Del Val. So hopefully Keeley can pick up where he had left off, but certainly he needs to pick up where Dwayne left this team. So this is a real solid Pennsbury team. And Souderton, of course, we know McKinley taking over for Atkinson there. I said not a big change for them, just kind of staying consistent with that coaching staff. And I think Kortnick and everyone's still floating around the program.
Yeah, and Atkinson's still staying.
Of course, he's the girls' coach.
As the girls' coach. I'll add Mike Hewitt from Pottstown. He's a Pottstown grad, which is big because he's in the building teaching and hoping to bring maybe a little bit more stability to that program that they haven't seen and as they've had a few coaches come through the ranks the last few years. So hopefully Mike brings that calmness and stability for a head coach for several years to come.
Avon Grove bringing in Gerhardt Reeder over in Chester County there. Reeder was an old wrestler for Kennett, just 23 years old, but he's got a couple kids there that can do some damage this year. So it'll be interesting to see how he can kind of keep things on the up down there in Avon Grove. Conestoga with the new coach Gary Baker. Conestoga, I think, is going to be one of those teams that maybe surprises some people this year. They got probably 4, 5, 6 kids that have a shot to make regionals, so I think he's got a good core to work with there at Conestoga. And
yeah, the Conestoga's on everyone's radar right now. So
Central League's a little bit wide open this year with Garnet Valley losing a lot and Strathaven losing some kids. So Unionville bringing in Eric Peoples. He has been there for a few years as an assistant. He was a wrestler at Salesianum, so he brings some good experience. They have some good kids kids back from last year. Cole Haynes, 6th place in regionals last year. Topher Tryon's coming back from an injury, so he should be set up with a couple of good kids there to kind of build on. And lastly, Great Valley, Scott G's taking over that program. He was an assistant at Kennett the last couple of years, so he's kind of gotten to see a program rise from not all that great to pretty competitive all of a sudden. So he's going to try to bring that over to Great Valley. Obviously, a lot of work to be done over there. So.
It seems like they've been on the coaching carousel there for a little bit at Great Valley.
Yep.
Ever since Tornado left.
Yeah. How many coaches have they had? I mean, I can't even count on one hand, I don't think.
Maybe number 4 or 5 since Tornado left.
Matt Herpes killed everybody there, I guess, right?
All right, so who we missed there? We talked about just about everyone. You talk about Harrington out there on the main line. Eric Ochoa taking over a Harrington team that, they were a Double-A team for a while. They've bounced around back and forth, Triple-A, Double-A. I think it's always been a numbers game for them. When they have the numbers, they have the talent. So we'll just have to see what happens out there on the main line for them. And at Upper Darby, you always get some tough kids there. And I think Lavragetti ought to do a nice job with that program. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of Upper Darby supporters and staff that have been around to kind of get him through that initial season. Do we miss anybody?
Mike Magano takes over at Pope John Paul for Chris Sheets. Again, you talk about a numbers game. It's similar situations. Early results show they look like they have pretty good numbers in their program right now, and hopefully Magano can help to build upon the success that Tom Hans had there, and then Sheets enjoyed, and they've never been short on individual talent. Hopefully Magano can get his foot in the door and build some team talent there.
Yeah, I know we're going to talk about our top teams later, but if you look at a couple of these teams, obviously Garnet Valley is the biggest change with Rocco Fantazzi stepping down there. Chris Tate has big shoes to fill right there because they have been a stalwart not only in District 1, but for, represent us at the state level as well into state dual. So that's a big job to take over, and I know that they had some, job search out there, and Chris Tate landed the job, so he's got some work to do, and I'm sure that whole Garnet Valley staff's going to be there for him. He talked about in the video that Fantazzi's been there the whole way. You can pick up the phone anytime and give him a call, so that's nice to know. And I think a lot of these other programs very similar to Upper Darby. I think just a phone call away, to the big man, and he'll help out. So And again, Pennsbury, a team that was on the rise and is coming back. Again, Phil Keeley, he has big shoes to fill, coming back to his old job after what Wayne Stinson did at Pennsbury. I just think that a lot of these guys have some big jobs to do.
Yeah, I think Tate there at Garnet Valley, obviously they lost 4 kids that made states last year, but he's been a big part of that Black Sheep club down there, a big reason why Sun Valley's gotten a lot better as well. So he certainly knows what he's doing, and Garnet Valley just has those kids that come right from the football team. They're tough. They work really hard. So, I think that transition will be pretty smooth.
Yeah, and they get a late start with the football because football's always going deep.
Yeah, they were state semis. So
yeah.
So moving on, this year, not quite yet sanctioned by the PIAA, but it's well on its way. As of last week when Glenn and I did a match at Rock South with when they hosted Penridge, there were 84 schools that have been committed to having a girls wrestling team. We're now at 85 with the addition of Camp Hill High School. So now we are 15 away from wrestling being sanctioned, girls wrestling being sanctioned as a PIAA sport, which is super exciting. The numbers are growing exponentially. Although there's some areas of District 1 that don't have teams yet, there are, I know there's talks of lots of other teams. I think you're going to see those go. And we talked a little bit off camera that probably by the end of the season, you're going to see those 15 schools needed number eclipsed and put it in the PIAA's court to have to sanction it. We talked about, Chris Atkinson leaving the job as the boys coach at Souderton, and it's still kind of weird saying boys wrestling team and girls wrestling team, that we're at this juncture of it. But yeah, leaving his post as the boys head coach to take over as the girls head coach at Souderton is just exciting to see, especially with how much it's exploded worldwide and the success our United States wrestlers have had on the international scene, and this is like the grassroots effort to continue to support that.
Yeah, and Joe Stabilito, District 1 steering rep at large member, is a big part of the girls movement through Pennsylvania USA Wrestling. He's our chairman here in Pennsylvania, and he just does a lot. And then William Tennett's up there. They have a girls team locally. Look at the big boys, Quakertown. They have a team. So I think you're going to see some of these. Happer Horsham had a girls team 2 years ago. You had 7 girls on the team, probably 3 years ago, pre-COVID. So there are some teams that are going to come back around with these girls teams, Joe's right in District 1. But if you look, we were just talking off camera about that 30 teams in District 3. They've kind of led the way and carried the banner in District 7 with 14. I think if we can get everyone around that, between 5 and 10. I mean, if you do that 5 and 10, those numbers are there easy with each district. I think you're not going to see a lot down in District 12 due to the Catholic schools. I don't think you're going to see the girls teams there. But I think we're really close. It's been a lot of hard work. I think the PIAA has to identify that this sport is growing rapidly. And look at the day after states for the girls now out at Hershey. I think they had it. We've had it at Warwick High School one year.
Gettysburg another year.
So this isn't going away. It's actually going to get better and better. And Nate, you're going to have more to cover out there in the Chestnut League, and I think I'm going to have to do some work in the SOL. I'm looking at the list. Everyone but Boyertown is in the SOL.
And speaking of Boyertown, they are having their first ever girls match tonight. They were traveling to Easton to wrestle the Red Rovers this evening. So shout out to Boyertown. Essentially, christening the team tonight. Again, a program that is storied tradition here in District 1 and District 3 for that matter, having a first tonight with, their first girls match ever.
Yeah, and then just to make note, this past weekend, Quakertown hosted the JV tournament as well as a girls tournament. The numbers were great. The girls were very, very competitive. There was a high-level, talented group of girls wrestling from around the area, not just our District 1. So it's going to take tournaments like that. Teams are going to have to step up and host some events. And obviously having the Quakertown do the JV with the girls when they have the space, and I think they had a lot of mats down with 2 gyms. So you got to have room to do that. But again, just creating those opportunities to get the girls out to compete is what it's all about. And Quakertown obviously has a team, so they're going to do it.
Yeah, it should be noted at this time last year we had 29 teams in the state, and we're at 85. So you're talking almost 60 schools in that span of time. Yep. So it's it's only going to grow more. And
I think the kind of restrictions that were kind of applied initially, with how are they going to wrestle? Is it going to be scholastic wrestling? We're going to go freestyle. How many weight classes are they going to have? And I think it's just a matter of having a team where you can actually go and compete against and match up. Similar to our old the middle school in Keith Valley, and we would wrestle. It was with O&J or whoever. What middle school? You just match them up. Do that Madison system. I think anything we can do to have that team approach to girls wrestling is going to help, because I think the individual stuff and the tournament stuff we've seen now for a while at the girls level, it's been very high level wrestling. But now you're going to see, regular old, girls teams out there on the mats. Biggest problem schools are going to have is running the 2 practice thing if they can't incorporate it in some match space. But that's like the least of the problems that I've heard out there, for getting time in the room.
Yeah, it would just be nice to see. Obviously, Chester County, no teams on that list. Not a huge girls wrestling spot, but there's been some pretty good girls wrestlers down there. Haley Jaffe from Kennett always does well. Even nationally. But just having nowhere to go basically, right, other than wrestling the boys, it's tough for some of those girls. So it'd be nice to kind of see it grow and help everybody out.
So as we transition here, with the rest of this video here, Glenn's going to talk a little bit about our new rules and the updated weights for this year that were adopted by the PIAA, and kind of how it changes a little bit. So I'm going to hand it over to Glenn so we can talk about any of the new rules.
We're going to come right back after the video of the girls.
Oh, yep, sorry, my fault.
Mike's going to run that video, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about some of the new rules and updated weight classes.
It's going great. We returned two of our girls from last season. One was a state runner-up. We were able to recruit 3 new girls this year. And even bigger than that, my middle school program's up to 8 or 9 girls. So the future's coming. We're a growing program, and it's really going well. I love coaching girls. It's nothing against boys. I find that having been around girls for so long, there's a lot more attentiveness. Girls are more willing to be open and ask questions. They generally want to get better, and I mean from top to bottom across the board. And I'm not saying boys aren't like that. I feel like girls in general are much more coachable, and they're fun to coach. I just want to continue growing the sport, particularly in the area, but in my school as well. I don't have any major expectations. My state runner-up, Kayla, she's hurt right now, and she's got a shoulder injury she's dealing with. I would love to get her back, get her in the mix at states. Giselle as well, it was a match away from last year being on the podium and being a state place finisher. I've got two of my new girls that really have the potential to hopefully get through regionals and make it to the States. So we're just looking to stay healthy, keep growing the numbers, and have a good season. Same things as the boys. Get stronger, be more athletic. The community and the camaraderie in this sport is like no other sport that I've been a part of. It's just a really cool community. It's got a lot to offer to girls of any shape, any size. Yeah, I mean, the same reasons for the boys. I would tell any girl to come out and at least give this an honest look, because it might be a sport for them. And I think as girls try it, they find that it's a really cool community to be a part of. And I'd love to see more girls come out and try the sport of wrestling.
Preseason's going pretty good. We have 5 girls all first year, and they're picking it up pretty fast. I personally haven't coached boys, but I have noticed that they are extremely hard workers in the room, and the attention to detail means that we can move a lot faster with the technique. Plans for the team this season: get to a lot of scrimmages, try to get to a lot of tournaments, and just give them as mat time as we can. Benefit for coaching the girls team is just knowing that we're building a program that eventually my daughters will be able to go through as well.
I joined the wrestling team because I had friends on the wrestling team. I played football, and then all my friends from football were doing wrestling, and I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot. My preseason has gone good. I haven't really competed as much preseason as I do like more postseason, but so far it's been okay.
Good.
My goals for this year is to win states again and be on the top half, hopefully first place for Fargo, but definitely on the top half of the podium for Fargo. Well, a lot of the girls I told on my team, which grew very fast, I just told them, come wrestle. Like, it's going to get you in shape for any other sport. Wrestling conditioning is like no other. Even if it's not their main sport, it'll certainly help them with whatever their other sports are. We have a lot of field hockey and soccer girls on our team, and wrestling conditioning will definitely get them in shape for their sports.
I joined the wrestling team to do something new. It's a non-traditional path, so it's fun to eventually beat up the boys. Preseason goes pretty well. Cutting weight isn't the best part, but it's fun, and then meeting the new people and teaching. I will be wrestling off a few people for the varsity spot. My goals for this year is to at least win more than the last few years and to get to states. I've tried, and I'd say it's fun because it really is. It's very, it's rules. Like, you have to make weight, you gotta have fun, you have to listen, just everything's fun.
I joined wrestling because growing up I watched my uncle and my cousin do it, and I wanted to do it, and I thought it was going to be fun, so I joined. My preseason is going great. I'm really enjoying the team, and it's just really fun to
How many girls do you have at North Penn?
We have 3 girls right now.
Okay, good.
My goal for this year is to at least make it to girls' states and just be proud of myself and do good. Just tell them that it's fun, and it's a fun environment, and you get to make new friends and have fun.
I started wrestling in elementary school because I did jiu-jitsu, and it was a good transfer sport.
Okay, cool.
My goals for this year is to be able to be back out on the mat. No matter your weight, your athletic ability, anything, you'll be able to fit in this sport somewhere.
So that I could get better at wrestling and like master it, so that I have it for MMA. It's going pretty good. My goal is probably make varsity, have a couple of those matches. It builds discipline. You get stronger, you lose weight, build muscle and stuff.
The girls wrestling movement is going incredibly well in Pennsylvania. We've had amazing growth since last year, and we are truly on track to be sanctioned hopefully for next year. We are at 82 teams as of today. It's going up weekly. We are a PIAA emerging sport right now, but I truly think we will see sponsorship in the not too distant future. So it's on a great trajectory. So I think we're just going to continue to see growth. I think our numbers this year are going to be much higher than last year. And then I think once we are sanctioned, we are going to see that explosion again. I mean, it just continued. I mean, we are opening up opportunities every day for more girls to join the sport, and they're showing that when the opportunity's there, they're going to join. So those numbers are just going up and up. Even though the goal is obviously to get the sport sanctioned, even once it's sanctioned, the sport can keep growing. With support, with backing, being able to still speak to schools and help them. We don't want to just stop at 100 schools. We need 100 schools for sponsorship by the PIAA, but there's over 500 schools that have boys teams. that are PIAA affiliated. So it's like, why not try to get a girls team at every single one of those schools? So really the mission, we'll just keep going. Let's just keep growing the sport.
All right, we're back here after the girls video. I want to talk a little bit about our new rules and some rule changes. There's not a lot of significant rules that have been changed or added this year. There's a couple things we want to make note of. And most importantly, just some of the emphasis that you'll see the officials make this year, because we as media and certainly the fans and the coaches are always unsure of what's going on sometimes with some of the ways officials are passing judgment or kind of, making calls. Like when we got to the, we want to get to that college out of bounds rule. We're almost there. We're getting there, but some officials still just can't do it. And so there's a lot of things that are interesting here when you look at the emphasis that the PIAA is looking to the federation, then back down to our chapters to institute some of these things. So we're just going to talk real quick. Obviously with the weigh-ins, weighing in with the proper uniform, for the girls and for the boys. There's a couple things that really have not changed over the last couple years, just mentioning that they must weigh in with the uniform, and of course the two-piece uniform is legal. As we move back to the biggest thing that jumps out for me for these rule changes, and again, it's not really new, there's just a brand new piece to our stalling. So if you want to go look this up, remember the PIAA.org. You go right to the bulletin, and the bulletin highlights these things. But, just kind of defining stalling. And we have a lot of, sometimes we're like, why isn't that stalling? And over time, we're not going to call it stalling if you're hanging on to that leg. Even if you're in the offensive position, you're going to get called for stalling. So that's going to be a new one. They have, 4 different things that they're going to look at. The shoelaces, Mike and I were talking off camera. Again, you don't need to tie them up. You need to tie them up, but you don't need to cover them or you don't need to tape them. But if you don't, and they come undone or your shoe comes off, you're going to get called for the penalty point. So these are the little things that you need to look at with those type of penalty points. But stalling is one that you need to take a closer look at. I'm not going to go through each of these things, but just did want to mention about around the one leg, because often we see an offensive leg attack and someone maybe just be hanging on because they have a 2-1 lead. They could get called for stalling, which could be very interesting if they already had that warning. So that's one you got to look out for. Again, some of these other things are about reporting to the scorers table, and I think we don't really care about that stuff as media folks, but certainly the coaches and wrestlers need to pay attention about reporting to the table, straps up, those type of things. But as one other thing that, you go down the stalling penalty chart, just remember, it goes 1, 1, 2, and then you're DQ'd. And I think a lot of fans forget that fourth one, you're done. And I like to see the refs that call it right away. Nate and Joe and I, we always talk when we're mat side and like, where's the stalling call? Joe and I try and predict it when we're on camera video. And, we usually get it pretty close. But we would like to see those stalling calls called a lot earlier in the match, because I think it matters sometimes. And then just an emphasis on the rules this year. Some of the things you're going to see, and number one, I was talking again about this to Mike off camera about the sportsmanship. I think that officials are going to look for those flagrant fouls, language, taunting, and that's why we've added these rules over the past. To have these little rules within the match where the taunting, the chirping, the cursing, and inappropriate behavior during a match, you'll get the match points, but you're also going to have the disqualifications as well. So keep an eye on your wrestlers, coaches. I think that's the number one rule. Don't have them talking to anybody. There's no need to talk to the official. No need to talk to your opponent. Go out and wrestle on the mat. Some of the other things I think with the emphasis that they're talking about was, and I can't find them now, sportsmanship. And then we have a list of things, again, that the officials will take note of the stalling. So that's something you're going to see evolve from the start of the season to the end. But the emphasis will be on those new rules. But most importantly, illegal, harmful holds, and illegal maneuvers. We're going to see a lot more calls for potentially dangerous. They could end up being technical violations. If they're illegal and harmful holds, you're going to see penalty points for that. And again, they have the emphasis on the uniforms, which I'm again, I don't even know why the Federation wastes time on that. We can't get fined for talking about it. So that's what you have with your rule changes. But if you really want to get into it, you can dive into PIAA.org and go right to this year's 2022-23 Wrestling Bulletin, and it's all right there.
All right, and finishing up this first video, we're going to talk about the weights this year. Now, this is our third year at 13 weight classes for a dual meet, down from 14, which is what it used to be. Naturally speaking, that's best case scenario for matches one, first tiebreaker. It makes it a nice and clean break for that. We've done some matches in the past where it's gone to like criteria H to figure out matches, whereas matches one would have been an easy, much easier fix. With that said, this is the first year that we're at the Federation weight classes. Prior to that, PIAA selected our weight classes, so that's why they changed a little bit. And they only changed down low. 106 became 107. We went to
12, 13 to 14.
12, 13 to 14. 121. 127, 133, 139, and then you go back to 145, and it goes back to the more traditional that we're used to, 45, 52, 60, so on and so forth, all the way up 89 heavy and 285. So I like the fact we went back down to 13. But then also part of me wonders if we should have kept that 250, something in between heavyweight and 189. I'm also probably maybe in the minority. I think at the college level there should be a weight class there. I think back to one of our own. I think back to Mike Boykin. Making 197 too tough, and then kind of an undersized heavyweight. If there's something in the middle there around 220 pounds, that would have right in like someone like that's wheelhouse. That's my personal opinion, but I do like the 13 just because it makes it a little bit cleaner. But like I said, that I think that we could have manipulated them a little bit more. They maybe could manipulate a little bit more to have something there between 189 and 215.
Yeah, and Mike just explained to what happened with the Federation, that they gave states the options to go 12, 13, or 14 weights. And Nate, you just asked, what was the reasoning for some of these changed weights. So there's the reason. Once you pick the 12 or 13 or 14, then they just said these are the weights. I'm curious, to hear from you, because you've been covering high school wrestling for how long?
Since 2006.
Yeah, so since 06, you've seen a lot of these weights kind of change, and Mike's done a lot of analysis on those forfeits down low and at the 215. Sometimes it was the 170 weight class that saw a lot of those forfeits. How do you think the 13 weight classes pans out for the forfeit piece? Are we going to see less forfeits?
I would think so. I think it was a good move. I don't like necessarily taking the lightweights away. Obviously, they took a heavier weight away, and I think that's probably better because there's more depth down low. But I think wrestling is a beautiful sport because you can be 105 pounds or you can be 285 pounds. It's amazing that it encompasses that level of athlete. But I do think getting rid of one, it just kind of makes things a little smoother. Having 4, 5, 6 forfeits for a dual meet is just brutal for fans, for the teams that have to warm up and practice, and then you walk out there and get your hand raised for free. It just doesn't seem all that fun. So hopefully it does cut down some of the forfeits. I think that's good for the sport ultimately.
Yeah, and certainly the criteria piece, Joe, like you mentioned before, like we've sat at matches and we started doing it. I think we've done it at a Boyertown O&J match a couple times. We did it at Central Bucks East Boyertown at District Duels last year. I was trying to figure it out, and it ended up being a flagrant. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
So really the 7 wins kind of really helps the deciding a dual meet, especially if you have those forfeits, and the team. If you don't have a full roster, that's kind of the thing. When we look at our top 10s, in our next preview show, the teams that can put 13 guys on the mat are going to be teams that are going to be ranked in the top 10, top 15, because they're going to be able to go out and get points. So I like the 13. I've been a big proponent of it all along. I think I wrestled when it was 12. Back in the day and in the 80s, and I've seen 13, I've seen 14. So I think 13 is the right number. I think we all agree here in Pennsylvania. I know there was a lot of bickering about it throughout the state, and once you get across the Susquehanna, that's when sometimes we don't see things the same way. So I'm glad we settled in. I think the Federation, this may be a good thing for them. This may be the end of that with giving the states the option, because I think that was the big deal. Pennsylvania was like, no, we want to do what we want. So we can now. We can pick what we want to do, and we're going to get assigned those weights. So well done by the Federation and the PIAA here.
I'm interested to kind of see if this 1 pound makes that much of a difference down low with 107. Get the 2 pounds after Christmas, all of a sudden they're 109. Maybe we start to see a little more sophomores and juniors down low. I'm sure that weight's going to look a lot bigger when you get to Hershey and some of those big tournaments. Some of the bigger kids dropping now that they get a little extra buffer.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how much that changes. It obviously hurts the little kids that are, just not developed enough at 107 to be a full 109 pounder now. But
114 kind of becomes 119 at 116. It's a very, when you look at that, you see when they start to separate how many pounds you go up just one, what that looks like. But 114, I mean, that makes it 116. That's going to be a really interesting weight class at States.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, you're right. This is going to be very interesting to see where those littler guys wind up. And I think 114 is going to be where you're going to see some littler guys and some big guys come down. You might see that right here in District 1.
Yeah, I would think freshmen are going to try to get to 109 if they can, because some of those weathered wrestlers that are used to cutting and getting down to 116, like you said. I mean, there are going to be some big boys there all of a sudden.
Yeah. So, folks, that's all we have for this first video. We hope you enjoyed. Just like the teaser, just the appetizer for the other two, and giving you just a little bit on talking about some stuff that's coming down your way. In the future videos, we're going to talk about our top 10 that comes up in the third video, which will be released later this week. It's Monday right now. We're filming. I think that will be part of Thursday's video. Next video, we're going to talk about returning wrestlers, college commitments, and who we kind of think is on the brink of breaking through and making it to Hershey out of District 1. So more on that in the next video. Again, as always, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be right back.